Should you use blood group and a Rhesus factor to determine whether you're compatible with your partner if you're planning to have kids? Now, we have several things that we need to define here. Before we even go there, we have several things that usually happen in the society. One is you find someone who is always miscarrying. So they always get miscarriage all the time. We have another situation where you find that someone had the first kid very perfect, but maybe they were jaundiced a little bit, but they have never been able to conceive to term any other kid. So they only have that one. They try getting another kid. They are unable because they usually miscarry all the time. Now we're going to define why this might be the case, because we're going to deal with something we call the Rhesus factor and the blood group. So I'm going to pack a lot of information in this video. So in case it's overwhelming, click on that save button. You are going to come back to the same video. You can also, by the way, subscribe to my YouTube. By the way, we are growing there. We have a huge family there, and also on Facebook. Now, we have 4 blood groups. We all know by now that you have 4 of them. We have A, we have B, we have AB, and we have O. Now, there's something else that you know. If you are A, you might find that you are A positive or A negative. Everything goes this direction. So positive, minus, positive, minus, positive, minus. Now, let me introduce to you something that's called the Rhesus antigen. Now we call this the D antigen. So this is antigen D. Now what happens here is on your red blood cell, you have this antigen A, you have the H that we were talking about yesterday, and you also have the Rhesus one. This is the D. In case you are positive, if you don't have, if you are negative, it means that you don't have this antigen. In case you're positive, you already have this. So you have this D antigen on the surface of your red blood cells. Very important. Make sure you note this, because we are dealing with the couples here. So their worry is whether they can get healthy babies. If you are a male and you are either positive or negative, you don't need to worry about anything at all in this situation when it comes to hemolytic disease of the newborn. The only person you are worried about, although you can be a contributor to what you're going to discuss. Now, if you are a female and you are positive, you don't need to worry about anything, because in case you get a kid who is Rhesus positive, you're totally okay. Rhesus negative, there's no antigen, so you're not going to fight this kid. Now, the issue comes when you are a lady and you are Rhesus negative. This is where now the issue usually comes in. You have to be very, very deliberate when it comes to you getting pregnant. Now, this is where I usually advise anyone, so long as you have the capacity of getting pregnant. In case you discover you're pregnant, we don't care how you got that, whether maybe it was through or a spirit or something. Always make sure you know your blood group. That's the first thing you're supposed to know. Know your blood group, because this is where you're also going to know the Rhesus factor. Always make sure that even if you're planning to terminate a pregnancy, in some countries this is legal, if you're planning to keep it or even terminate it, or maybe you might feel that you might get a miscarriage, I don't care. Always make sure you know your blood group, because this will save your life forever. Okay, now let's go to whom that person is very, very relevant. Now, this is a lady who is Rhesus negative. Suppose they meet with a partner, the male partner, who is a Rhesus positive. What will happen here is the kid that they are going to have, this kid that they're going to have will be Rhesus positive now, which means that now you're introducing a new antigen into the body that does not recognize this Rhesus. So, like we said, this is Rhesus negative, so there is no this antigen. You introduce something new in the body. This body might sense that there is something new here, and it will launch an attack. The same way something like you get a bacterial infection, your body, the immune cells, will produce what we call antibodies that will go and try to fight off that infection. That's the case here, because now it will treat this as a pathogen, as something that's foreign in the body and has a potential of causing that illness. So that's why it will send the antibodies. Now, the first kid might survive, and this is the reason. You see, you already have that Rhesus positive kid and your Rhesus negative mother. What will happen here is you have something that we call the placenta, which is very, very essential and very important, because this one will shield the kid from the mother. Anything coming from the mother will be shielded off by the placenta. So this is like an armor. But we have a twist here. What usually happens here, when you're close to giving birth, there's a high tendency of you getting an injury, or maybe the kid in the stomach getting injured, and this blood might leak, and the body of the mother senses, there's something new. Now, what will happen here is they are going to tell now the B cells to start producing the antibodies. Now, these antibodies will come to fight off this pregnancy, and it's not going to be successful because this is still very early. When you have an infection, there's antibodies that we call IgMs, which are the first one to be produced. And then we have those that we call IgG, which come later on, or maybe when you have a chronic infection. So this is what will come later on. But the first thing to be produced is IgM. Now this kid is lucky because you see, IgMs are usually huge, they are big, and this is small. But because they're big, they cannot cross the placenta. So they're going to stay around waiting for the IgGs to be formed. Now, IgGs, they're going to take a little bit longer before they get formed, and this will buy time for delivery. So you might get, for example, maybe a week or maybe 2 weeks to delivery. That's when now you're getting some few IgGs getting formed, crossing the placenta and trying to fight off this kid. And that's why, in case the case was the mother was Rhesus negative, and they didn't have that injection, that's very, I'm going to talk about this injection later. What will happen is they're going to be jaundiced, because there will be destruction of some of the red blood cells in that kid. Mostly, 90% of them usually survive. And after some few days, they recover, they're back to normal, they are totally okay. Now, let's go to when that's not fortunate. When you're giving birth, this is a sure bet. At one point, that kid will come into contact with and there will be blood. So that kid will come into contact with the mother, and this is where now the mother will be sensitized. The same case that happened earlier on, maybe there was an injury in the womb, and there was a sensitization. The B cells produced antibodies, so we have more IgMs in the body. So during birth, what will happen here is sensitization of the white blood cells of the mother, meaning that they're going to form IgMs. And because she's not going to become pregnant right after, they are going to, by the time she's getting pregnant a second time, she has already formed the IgGs, which are very tiny, they can cross the placenta. So by the time you're conceiving a next time, it means that you're going to find already formed IgGs, and they're going to attack that pregnancy. There's a cycle. After fertilization of the ovum, it becomes a zygote, it gets implanted, and then it goes through several phases before it becomes a real human being. Now, there's a period when there will be formation of blood islands and blood. Okay, generally, when there will be formation of blood, what happens here is, because there will be formation of the D antigen, the one that we were talking about earlier, this is when now the IgGs will cross the placenta to fight off those red blood cells, and that's when you're going to have that miscarriage. So, how do you prevent this? One, first of all, after you discover that you are Rhesus negative as a lady, always make sure that you remind that your nurse, whoever is taking you through the antenatal care. First of all, if they know that you are this at week 28 or around week 28, they might give you what we call Rogam. Now, this Rogam is anti-D, and it will prevent your body from getting sensitized. So it kind of puts a blindfold on your white blood cells, such that they're not going to form antibodies that will come and fight this pregnancy. Also, before 72 hours are over after delivery, you are given that Rogam to also prevent you, because this is the time when definitely your body is going to come into contact with the kid. So during this time, also, you're given this Rogam to make sure you don't get activated. No, you don't get sensitized. So always make sure that you know your blood group, and especially the Rhesus factor. It's very important.